Okay, so a pleasant evening po again to everyone. And this time, we will be discussing items 91 to 120. I believe you have your copies with you po. So I hope you are ready with your copies. And we will be discussing them right now. So we are done discussing the first 90 items. This time, we will discuss the next 30 items, particularly items 91 until 120. So I believe we are all set. Are we set po? Are we ready? With our copies, with our answer sheets?
Yes po.
Okay, sige. So with that said, let's see po how we perform in the next 30 items. And I believe, I'm hoping that you will get also high or satisfactory scores on this one. So with that, let's have item number 91 rather. What is the probability of getting a sum of 9 when a pair of dice is rolled? Is it 5/36, 2/3, 5/6, or 1/9? Please comment your answer in our chat box. Okay, let's see your answers. Okay, I see some D, boy, I see some D as in dog. Okay, so, but which is which? Well, let us remember that if we roll two dice by the fundamental counting principle, give me a second. Let us recall po that from our fundamental counting principle, the first die has 6 outcomes. The second die has another 6 outcomes also. With that, there are 6 times 6 or 36 possible outcomes all in all. And we have to note how many outcomes would give us a sum of 5. We could actually, of 9, I mean. To get a sum of 9, you could have either 3, 6, 4, 5, 5, 4, or 6, 3. So you could see, I think you could no longer have others. You could not have 2, 7 because there's no 7 in the die, because the usual ones that we have are from 1 to 6 only. So that's 4 out of the 36 possible outcomes, or when simplified, will give us 1/9. So if you answered letter D, congratulations, nakuha po natin. So yes. So okay, so marami pong sumagot ng letter D. Okay, so far so good po. Okay. Let's proceed to item 92. A company issues a 3-letter security code to each of its employees. How many distinguished codes can be generated if repetition of letters is allowed? So for example, pwedeng lahat sila iba-iba. Pwedeng lahat sila, let's say mayroong dalawang magkapareho. Pero meron ding possibility na lahat sila parehas. So ilan kaya lahat? Okay. So far, I have answers B, and according to Ma'am Judy, 26 times 26 times 26 po. Okay. And I agree with that, no? Because we are aware that the English alphabet, usually in cases like this, it's actually involving the English alphabet that has 26 letters. So for the first digit, or I mean for the first one, you could have 26 because the alphabet has 26 letters. And you could also have 26 for the second letter, and 26 also for the third as well, for the third slot. And by the fundamental counting principle, we have to multiply this. So we have 26 times 26 times 26, or 26 cubed, and that gives us 17,576 all in all. So letter B nga po, yung ating tamang sagot. Okay, good job po sa lahat ng sumagot ng B. Okay, so yung iba siguro baka shy lang. Okay, so thank you po. 93. A graduating class of 150 boys and 170 girls wait lang po. So 150 boys and 170 girls held the class seniors ball. Approximately what percent attended if 60% of the girls and 70% of the boys were there? Did you go for letter A, B, C, or D? So far, I believe marami po sa atin yung confident about letter D. Is it really 64.69%? Tignan po natin. So to do this, knowing that there are 150 and the other one is 170, so that's there are a total of 320 students all in all po. Pero remember, 60% of these 170 are present po, no? That's why 60% of 170 is 102. And also, if you will get 70% of 150, that means out of these 150, 105 po yung present. So all in all, 102 plus 105 tells us that there are 207 people all in all who attended the said ball. And 207 is what percent of 320? To do such, we will divide 207 by 320 and multiply the result by 100%, and that gives us 64, approximately 64.69%. So lahat po ng sumagot ng D, galing. Tama po. Thank you po, Sir PJ, Ma'am Abby, at sa lahat-lahat po ng nag-comment ng kanilang sagot. Tama po. Okay, 94. What do you call a line that is perpendicular to the tangent line at the point of tangency? Is it a normal line, integral, incremental, or derivative? Okay, marami po sa atin ang sumagot ng letter A. Tama nga ba yung normal? And you are actually correct if you answered letter A or normal line. A normal line is a line that goes through the point xy and is perpendicular to your tangent line. Your tangent line is actually using the same slope, but the normal line is perpendicular to it. In other words po, if ever two of your lines are neither horizontal nor vertical, then the product of the slopes of your tangent line and your normal line should be -1. That's why, halimbawa po, no, if this is our tangent line, then the normal line should be creating a 90-degree angle with your tangent line. So letter A nga po yung ating tamang sagot. Okay? So far, so good. I believe parang marami atang mataas na makakuha ngayon. Hopefully. 95. Evaluate. What is the limit of the square root of x minus 4 all over x minus 16? As x approaches 16, did you go for 1/8, 3/8, 1/4, or 1/2? Okay? Sige. Okay. So, marami po atang sumagot ng letter A. And tama nga kaya ang letter A. If you could notice po, if you will substitute 16 here, if you will substitute 16 sa ating x, magiging square root of 16 to, magiging 4 minus 4 magiging 0 po yung ating numerator. At saka yung ating denominator po ay magiging 16 minus 16, which is 0. So it's 0 over 0, which is an example of what we call indeterminate form. And if ever we are confronted with this, ano po kaya ang pwede nating gawin? If ever you see something like this, what do you think could we do? We could okay, tama po, no? We could multiply by the conjugate, sabi ni Sir Freddy, and that is actually correct. So in this case, I will multiply both numerator and denominator with the conjugate of the term of the binomial with the radical. So if you could see po, the square root of x minus 4, its conjugate is square root of x plus 4. So you see the first terms and the last term are the same. It's just that they vary at the sign at the middle. So I'll multiply it by square root of x plus 4. And to maintain equality, whatever term is multiplied in the numerator should also be multiplied at your denominator po. And with such, if I multiply the square root of x minus 4 and square root of x plus 4, you could simply have, remember, it's just a squared minus b squared. You square the first term, that's x. If you square the last term 4, which gives you 16, and that's minus. And I did not distribute this. I just copied it as in factored form, which is x minus 16 times the quantity square root of x plus 4. Why did I do this? Because I am pretty aware that I could divide x minus 16 because it's common to both numerator and denominator. So square root of x minus x minus 16 divided by x minus 16 in the numerator, in the denominator rather, will be 1. Okay? So with such, it becomes 1 all over square root of x plus 4. And pardon me, all of these should be excess here. And you can now substitute the value of x by 16. And that gives you 1 over square root of 16 plus 4. Square root of 16 is 4, right? So it becomes 1 over 4 plus 4, or 1/8. Letter A. If you got letter A, good job. So I think many of you got it correct po. Okay, so I changed all n's earlier to x. Okay, do we have any questions or clarifications po before we proceed with the next item? Do you wish to clarify something, or is there clarification po? Okay, so no question? Okay, sige. Thank you po for commenting, Sir Kim and Ma'am Judy. Thank you po. If ever you have questions or clarifications, feel free po to message me or to comment po. No problem po. We will try to address them. Okay. Okay. Okay, how about the limit of x squared minus 10x plus 25 all over x squared minus 25 as x approaches 5? Did you go for negative 1/3, negative 1/8, 0, or 1/2? Okay. So far, I got C's as answers. And for this portion here, actually, if you would evaluate 5 to your numerator, it will become 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 25. Your numerator becomes 0. And for your denominator, 5 squared minus 25 will also give you 0. So it's a 0 over 0 again, and this becomes an indeterminate form. For this particular case, it would be better if we factor it. Again, all the variables here has to be x. So with this, factoring the numerator, this is in fact factorable as x minus 5 times x minus 5, or x minus 5 quantity squared. Your denominator is factorable to x minus 5 times x plus 5. You could see from here that x minus 5 is a common factor of both numerator and denominator. And dividing these two would give us the limit of x minus 5 all over x plus 5 as x approaches 5. And now, substituting the value of x by 5, that gives you 5 minus 5 all over 5 plus 5, or 0. Letter C. So, tama nga po yung 0 natin. Take note po that once we substituted already the variable, then there is no more limit symbol. So, letter C po yung ating tamang sagot. All right. So far, so good. Thank you po. 97. What is the derivative of y equals 3x to the fourth minus 5x squared plus x? Did you go for 4x cubed minus 10x plus 1? 12x cubed plus 10x plus 1? 12x cubed minus 10x plus 1? Or 12x cubed minus 10x? So, again, no? Many of us answered, or some of us answered letter C. Let's see kung tama nga ba yung letter C. Ano nga yung shortcut dito kapag kumukuha tayo ng derivative? So, our derivative could be either you could call it dy over dx, you could call it y prime, or f prime of x, depende po sa given. So, ano po yung ginagawa natin? Caltech, tama, no? Yung calculator technology natin. Or to make it simple po, no? Using the power rule, we will multiply the exponent here to your constant, so 4 times 3. Tapos, yung exponent ng ating variable ay binabawasan po natin ng 1. Okay, yes, Sir Kim, tama po. I do agree with that. So with that, no? So 4 times 3, that's 12. Tapos, yung exponent niya bawasan po natin, 4 minus 1, x cubed. Tapos ito, 2 times negative 5 gives you negative 10. Yung exponent ng x, bawasan ng 1, magiging x to the 1, or simply 1 lang po. Tapos plus, this is 1 here, 1. It's understood that the exponent here is 1. 1 times 1 will give you 1. And this becomes x raised to 0. So x raised to 0 is equal to 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. Take note po natin that x raised to 0 is equal to 1 as long as x is not equal to 0. Hence, letter C nga po yung ating tamang sagot. Okay, thank you po. So, I believe parang marami atang makakakuha ng mataas na score ngayon. Sana po, sana. Okay. 98. What is the slope of y equals 3 times the quantity to the fourth, 2x plus 3 to the fourth power? Did you go for A, B, C, or D? Okay. So far, of those who commented, they answered letter A so far po. And the thing is, anong concept po yung ano? If we are going to get the slope of a certain curve or of a certain function po, anong concept po ba yung dapat nating gamitin? If we are talking about slope. Sa calculus. Tama. We will get first derivative, second derivative, third derivative, ano po? Ikailang derivative po yung kunin natin. We will get the first derivative po. Tandaan po natin yun, ha? The slope of a function or a certain relation is actually at any point, no? At any point, as long as it's defined po, no? Is in fact the slope po. Its first derivative with respect to x. For this case, with respect to x. So since you have this one, no? You have a function here inside, no? You are raising a certain polynomial to 4. We will actually utilize what you call the chain rule po natin. So, using your power rule po, we will multiply this 3, no? Yung power rule. This 4 will be multiplied here. That's why I have 3 times 4. Then you just copy the base here, 2x plus 3. And bawasan po natin yung exponent niya by 1, di po ba? That's why ito po. And you might ask, Sir, bakit may 2 pa dito? Remember po natin, according to the chain rule, we still have to get the derivative of the inside. That the first derivative of 2x is 2. The derivative of 3 is 0. Because remember, the derivative of a constant is 0. So multiplied by the derivative of 2x plus 3, which is in fact 2. So with such, we could actually multiply 3, 4, and 2. 3 times 4 times 2 is 24. And I just copied the 2x plus 3 quantity cube. So letter A nga po yung ating tamang sagot. Yes. So letter A, sa lahat po ng sumagot ng A, correct po. But if ever hindi po A yung sagot natin, no worries po. So it's yung mahalaga po, we are learning in the process. Okay. May question po or clarification before I proceed? Wala naman po. Okay. Thank you po. 99. What is the value of the limit of 3x minus 5 all over 2x minus 8 as x approaches infinity? Okay, letter B daw. Okay. So, okay. Ano pong technique yung ginamit mo? Sir PJ, if you don't mind po, ano po yung ginamit mong way to determine the limit po? Sir PJ, would you wish if you don't mind po? Okay. Okay, sabi ni Sir Freddy, 3x over 2x. Okay? Actually, we could actually invoke certain theorems po, no? And if you are getting the limit of a... Okay, tama. So according kay Sir Kim, we will multiply both numerator and denominator by 1 over x. Actually, that is actually correct po. Because actually, no, if you would get limits at infinity, as x approaches infinity, we are actually getting the horizontal asymptote of this one. So the technique po is we will divide each term by x. Bakit by x? Because ito po yung highest ito po yung variable with the highest exponent. Yung pinakamataas na exponent ng variable x natin dito is 1. So we will divide each term by x. So we will have this. 3x divided by x gives you 3. Negative 5 over x gives you negative 5 over x. 2x divided by x gives you 2. Negative 8 divided by x gives you negative 8 over x. Tapos, we are actually, so you have this one po. You are actually having a theorem that if you divide a constant as say any non-zero constant by a variable, and as your variable denominator increases to infinity, then the value of this expression becomes smaller and smaller that it is approaching 0. That's why yung limit ng 3, remember that the limit of a constant, regardless of the value of the value x approaches, is always the constant itself. Magiging 3 ito. Yung limit ito ay magiging 0 all over, this is 2 minus this limit as x approaches infinity becomes 0, and that becomes 3/2 or 1.5. Letter B. And another technique po, if you are dividing polynomials having the same degree, then its limit as x approaches infinity is simply the ratio of their leading coefficients. That's why 3 over 2 or 1.5. Letter B. Okay, nakuha po natin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Alice, you have
Okay
number?
po.
Kamal?
Ah,
I don't think I have Norbert.
Norbert?
Norbert.
Okay. Questions po? None? Okay. Dumako po tayo sa number 100. Okay. Ano po ibig sabihin ng notation na to? This notation means the second derivative. So find the second derivative if y equals 3x to the fourth minus 2x squared plus 5x. Did you go for A, B, C, or D? Okay. Yes. Yun nga lang po. Okay, so we have, yes po. So, okay, letter A. Marami atang sumagot ng letter A. Let's see. So, if you will get the first derivative of this, ano pong first derivative natin? Sir Freddy, pakibigay po ng ating first derivative.
Ang first derivative natin, sir, nasa nga 100. Number 100, sir.
Yes po.
The first derivative is equal to 12x cubed minus 4x plus 5.
Tama po. Using the power rule.
Rule.
But we are not only after the first derivative po, no? We will still get the second derivative. And to get the second derivative is the derivative of your first derivative. So kukunin po natin muli yung derivative ng 12x cubed minus 4x plus 5. Sir Freddy, ano po yung derivative ng binigay ninyo?
Ang first derivative, sir, or ang second derivative?
Yung second derivative na po.
Ang second derivative is 36x squared minus 4.
Tama po. So that's letter A nga po. So thank you po, Sir Freddy, and congratulations po sa lahat ng nakakuha. Okay, good job po. Okay, may katanungan po. Wala naman. Okay. Okay, so far so good. Okay, thank you. 101. Find the critical number or numbers of y equals x cubed plus x squared minus x plus 5. Did you go for -1, 1/3, or both A and B, or none of the choices? Sabi ni Sir PJ, letter C daw. Tama nga kaya siya? Hula raw. D, sabi ni Sir. Okay, tingnan po natin. Siguro yung iba nahihiya lang ano. Sige, don't worry po. Remember po, no, in calculus, to get the critical numbers of a certain polynomial function or equation like this, all we have to do is we have to get its first derivative. Yung ano po, it's actually a theorem, no? So we have to get the first derivative. Let's call it y prime. Pwede rin pong dy over dx. So, depende po. So, sa akin, gumamit po ako ng y prime. So, y prime equals, by the power rule, this is 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. Tama po. And next, the next thing we have to do is, we actually set y prime equals 0. Why? Because if remember that y prime here is your slope, and the critical numbers could actually be found, no, if we set the slope equal to 0, or if you have a horizontal slope, because having a horizontal slope there would actually indicate no, that at a certain point with a certain x value will give you either a minima or a maxima, for example. With such, we have 3x squared plus 2x minus 1 equals 0. And yes, I do agree with you, Sir PJ. It's actually factorable as 3x minus 1 times x plus 1. And that's equal to 0. And by the zero property of multiplication, we will equate each factor to 0. So with that, 3x minus 1 equals 0 tells us that the first value of x is 1/3. And for x plus 1 equals 0, x is equal to -1. Okay? Therefore, both A and B are actually correct. That's why letter C po yung ating tamang sagot. That's why if you are given polynomials lang po, no? Polynomial equation or function, all you have to do is get the first derivative and equate that first derivative to 0 po. Tapos, just solve for x, and whatever values of x you get could actually serve as the critical numbers. Okay, so thank you po sa lahat. No worries po. No problem po. Letter C. 102. Okay. Find dy over dx if y is equal to sine x cosine x. Did you go for sine x plus cosine x? Negative sine squared x minus cosine squared x. Cosine 2x or sine 2x. Okay. Ito yung gusto ko eh. Maraming naghumuhula. Okay, so far we have 3 answers na letter C. Tama nga kaya yung cosine 2x. Okay, Sir Barry also said letter C. Let's see if you got it right. Ma'am Algin, let's see po kung tama kayo. Remember, dy over dx is also another symbol or notation for the first derivative. So we will get the first derivative of this function with respect to x. And anong rule po ang gagamitin natin dito? Kasi meron po tayong dalawa eh. We could treat sine x as one function and cosine x as another function. So how do we get the derivative of the product of two functions? We will use the product rule, no? That is, in the product rule, the first function will be multiplied by the derivative of the second function, and the second function will be multiplied by the derivative of the first function. Para hindi po tayo ma-confuse, yung bawat function ay multiply natin ng derivative ng ibang function, ng isa pang function, ng isang function, okay? Tapos i-add natin sila. By the way, ano po yung derivative ng sine? Ano pong derivative ng sine x? The derivative of sine x is cosine x. Tandaan po ha, derivative ng sine x ay cosine x. Ano pong derivative ng cosine x? How about yung derivative ng cosine x po? Very good. It's negative sine x. With such, so sine x multiplied by the derivative of cosine x, which is negative sine x, plus yung second function natin na cosine x multiplied by the derivative of sine x, which is cosine x. With such, sine x times negative sine x is negative sine squared x plus cosine x times cosine x is cosine squared x, and by the commutative property of addition po, we could rearrange them to dy over dx equals cosine squared x minus sine squared x. And remember po natin, meron po tayong identity that cosine squared x minus sine squared x is equal to cosine 2x. So sa lahat po ng sumagot ng letter C, very good. You got it right po. Okay. So far, so good. I hope we are doing well so far. Yee, sabi ni Sir PJ. Tama siya. Okay. May tanong pa po before I proceed? Okay, no question so far. Okay, 103. A spherical balloon is being filled with a gas in such a way that when the radius is 2 feet, the radius is increasing at the rate of 1/6 feet per minute. How fast is the volume in feet cubed per minute changing at this time? Did you go for 8 pi over 3, 5 pi over 3, 2 pi over 5, or 8 pi over 5? Okay, so far we have 3 answers na letter A. Tama nga kaya yung A. Recall po natin that the formula for the volume of a sphere is V equals 4/3 pi r cubed, where V stands for the volume and R stands for the radius of your sphere. To get the rate of change, we will differentiate both sides with respect to time. So we have this one. Getting the derivative of both sides with respect to time, we get the dt of your volume equals, by the power rule po, no? We will multiply yung 3 na to sa 4/3. So 4/3 times 3 times pi times the exponent of your variable r is decreased by 1. And times the derivative of your r by the chain rule, magiging dr over dt po ito. Okay? Tapos, by simplifying, 4/3 times 3 will be 4. And rearranging them, the derivative dv over dt equals 4 pi r squared times dr over dt, where dv over dt is telling us how fast the volume is changing with respect to time, and dr over dt is the rate at which the radius changes with respect to time. Now, knowing that the value of the rate, diba, it changes at 1/6. And since 1/6 is positive, and if the rate is positive, then therefore it's increasing. But if the value of your rate is negative, it's actually telling you that it is decreasing. But since our rate is positive 1/6, so we are sure that this rate is increasing. It's increasing at the rate of 1/6 feet per minute. So I substituted dr over dt with 1/6 when the radius was 2. That's why 4 pi times 2 squared, I just substituted po, times 1/6 gives, simplifies to 8 pi over 3 feet cubed per minute. Letter A. In other words po, at that time where the radius was 2 feet, then it was increasing at the rate of 8 pi over 3 feet cubed po. Letter A. Okay? Okay. Questions? Rate of change po. So far, no questions? Okay, thank you po. 105. A trough 10 feet long has a cross-section that is an isosceles triangle. Ibig sabihin po niyan, kapag sinabi nating cross-section, kapag hihiwain mo siya na parallel sa bases niya, isosceles triangle, uniform na isosceles triangle po yung makukuha natin, which is 3 feet deep and 8 feet across. If water flows in at the rate of 2 feet cubed per minute, how fast is the surface rising in feet per minute when the water is 2 feet deep? Is it 80/3, 3 over 80, 2/5, or 5/2? To solve for this problem po, so this is how it looks like, your trough. Na isosceles triangle po, no? Tapos parang prism siya. Yan. Parang ganun. And yan po yung dimensions niya. Ito, 10 feet. Ito, 8 feet. Tapos yung height nito, perpendicular height, is 3 feet. If you fill that by water, then it will, this particular thing here that you placed has a height h. And let's say the length of this is, let's call it b. using the volume of the prism, the equation is the volume of the water is equal to A sub B times H of the prism. What does this mean? Tandaan po natin that volume is equal to the area of the base times the height. Where A sub B, ito po yung area of the base. Tapos ito po yung height natin. Tama po, lahat po merong relationship. Kayo lang wala. Okay, joke lang. Okay, so with this po, the volume of the water, in this case po, no? Kasi dito po, puno po yan hanggang dito. So, this is a triangle. Your base is a triangle. And its area is 1/2 base times the height. Tapos, yung height ng prism po, di ba ito po yung height nito. So, dito po ay 10. That's why by simplifying this, 1/2 dH times 10 will give you, actually, if you wish, you could simplify, no? Magiging 5 dH ito. But anyway, you determine the derivative of both sides na lang. Magiging, but before we differentiate, no? If we will use the concept of similar triangles, ito po, no? Remember, this thing here, this B is parallel here. And we have a theorem that if one segment, or if this segment is parallel to this, so these two are actually proportional po. That's why 8/3, so that is base divided by height of this larger triangle, is equal to the base divided by the height of this smaller triangle. What's the purpose of this? This is to express one variable in terms of the other, and that we will have only one variable lang na makikita dito sa right side. So from here, multiplying both sides, solving for B, magiging 3B equals 8H ito. And with that, B is equal to 8/3 H. Tama po. So we will replace this B with 8/3 H. Substituting po, we have 1/2 times 10 will be 5. This now is 8/3 H times H, which simplifies to this one. No? Magiging 40/3 ito eh. 40/3 H squared. So yung derivative naman po nito ay magiging, yung sa left hand, again, we differentiated po with respect to time both sides. That's why we have dV/dt equals 40/3 times yung derivative nito, which is 2H, times dH/dt, which is the derivative of H of the height with respect to time. dV/dt is how fast, it's the rate of change of your volume, and dH/dt is the rate of change of your height of this. By substitution, 2 ata ito sa ating problem. So 2 equals 80/3. Bakit 80/3? Kasi 40 times 2 all over 3 is 80/3. Tapos yung height natin was also 2, di ba, sa given? That's why yan po. And if we will solve for dH/dt, that tells us that dH/dt is 3/80 feet per minute. Letter B po, yung ating tamang sagot. Okay. Sige, sige. May nakakuha po ba ng letter B? Sige lang. Ay, okay. Mali daw yung hula. It's okay po. It's okay. Yung mahalaga po, at least, no, may natututunan po tayo. Okay. Thank you po. Okay, 105. Evaluate this. Okay, ano pa yung sagot natin sa 105? Evaluating of this integral. We will integrate the 3x squared plus 4x dx. Letter A daw. So, if we remember, no, if we are going to use the power rule po for integrals, we will add the exponent by 1. Tapos, kung ano yung exponent niya, yan yung i-divide sa term na yan. Yan yung magiging denominator niya. So with such, no? So we will just copy it po. 3x raised to 2. Pero again, add 1 to the exponent, plus 1. Your exponent here is 2 plus 1. That's why we divided the whole thing with 2 plus 1 as well. Plus 4x raised to 1 plus 1. Tapos 1 plus 1 po ito, no? So 1 plus 1 din po sa baba. But do not forget, meron po tayong plus c if we are talking about indefinite integrals. Kasi nga, later on, kapag kukunin natin yung derivative ng isang constant, magiging 0 lang naman ito. So with that, you should answer 3x cubed over 3 plus 4x squared over 2 plus c. But again, the 3 over 3 here simplifies to 1, and the 4 over 2 simplifies to 2. Hence, your answer here should be x cubed plus 2x squared plus c, which is letter A. Okay, so far, so good. Okay. 106 po. What is the antiderivative of a constant A? So let's use the variable c. Is it ax plus c? 0. Negative ax plus c? Or does not exist? Okay, so when speaking of antiderivative po, no, so we will also integrate yung constant ng A. And tandaan po natin, if you integrate a constant, expect po natin na i-attach lang po natin yung variable na yan, plus C na lang po agad-agad. So letter A. Halimbawa, your constant is 3. Ano yung kanyang antiderivative? 3x plus C. Assuming that we are using as a variable. If it's dx, no? Kung dy, syempre, y din yung variable na gagamitin natin. But for now, we have letter A. Okay. So I think so far to 4 who commented, letter A po yung ating sagot. Okay, good job po. Nakuha po natin. Again po ha, huwag po tayong mahiyang magtanong if ever na may concept po tayong hindi naintindihan. Okay, salamat po. 107. Okay, please integrate this. Integrate 3 plus x to the 4th plus e raised to x dx. B daw. Okay, sige. Tingnan natin kung tama nga ba si B o baka naman nabogus kayo. Okay. Ano pong integration ng 3? Yung integration ng 3i, I think I mentioned earlier, no? Constant na naman si 3, so attach natin yung x. Yung integration ng 3i, 3x. Remember, if you are integrating a polynomial, we will utilize term by term integration. That is, we will integrate each term. So integration of 3 is 3x. So therefore, dapat 3x lang. Ito may 3x squared eh. So I'm sure yung C mali ito. Ano po yung integration ng x to the 4th? Utilizing the power rule. You will add 1 to the exponent of x. Tapos kung ano yung exponent ni x, yun din yung magiging denominator, di ba? So it will be x to the 5th over 5. Tama. So siya lang naman na may x to the 5th eh. So yung sure tayo na yung iba wrong. And tandaan po natin ha, if you have e raised to x dx, yun po yung maganda sa e raised to x dx. Kasi yung e raised to x, yung antiderivative nito, at saka yung kanyang derivative, parehas lang. Itself po. That's why it's still e raised to x. Letter B po yung ating tamang sagot. Okay. So far, so good. 107, letter B po. 108. Okay. What's your answer? Paki-comment lang po. Saglit. Okay, so what is the definite integral of x squared dx as x goes from 0 to 2? Did you go for 8/3, 5/3, 2/5, or 8/5? I could see letter A's po from various people. So, tama nga pa si A. Tignan po natin. So, all we have to do, no, this time, earlier, we did not have lower and upper limits. But since we have lower and upper limits po, na 0 at saka 2 respectively, then hindi na po natin kailangang maglagay ng plus C. Kasi this time, it's a definite integral. For this one po, we will actually integrate. Ano po yung integration ng x squared dx? That would be x cubed over 3. Okay, thank you po, Sir PJ. Tama po. And this time, we will evaluate it when x is equal to 2 and 0. No? To make it simple po, by a certain theorem in calculus, we will substitute this upper limit here sa expression na to. That gives you 2 cubed all over 3. Tapos isa-substitute din po natin yung lower, no, yung ito po, yung 0. So magiging 0 cube all over 3. And all we have to do is subtract them. That's why naging 2 cube all over 3 minus 0 cube over 3, which is 8/3. Therefore, if you wish po, no, the area of the plane region bounded by f of x equals x squared and the x-axis, for example, is actually 8/3 square units. This is the same as we have solved using the Riemann sum formula po. Letter A. Actually, we are not really required to draw it, no, here, no. It would be better if we draw, of course, no. But since 0 lang naman po yung lower bound, that's why we did not na lang po. But that is how we interpret geometrically. So ito po, 8/3 po yung area nito. Okay, so sa lahat po ng sumagot ng letter A, wow, you got it right po. Congratulations. Okay, tama yung hula ng iba. Humula ba? Wala. Walang humula. So, sure. Thank you po. 109. How about this? Another definite integral. But this time, our lower bound is not 1. The lower limit is 1, not 0. So what's the integration of the square root of x as x goes from 1 to 4? Dx, of course. 10/3, 5/3, 14/3, or 8/5. So dito po, no, this is a square root function. And remember, we could rewrite it as in exponent form. Yung square root of x will become x raised to 1/2. And again, using the power rule, we will add 1 to the exponent. So x 1/2 plus 1 will be 3/2. So you will divide also. So you have x raised to 3/2. And of course, you will divide by 3/2. Because whatever the exponent of your variable, that will also serve as your denominator. And we will evaluate it when x is 4 or when x is 1. So this time, if we simplify it, if you divide by 3/2, it's the same thing when you multiply by 2/3. That's why simplifying it gives us 2x raised to 3/2 all over 3. And again, we will substitute 4 to this expression. We will also substitute 1 to this expression and subtract the results. Hence, you have 2 times 4 raised to 3/2 all over 3 minus 2 times 1 raised to 3/2 all over 3 by the second fundamental theorem of calculus. And you could simplify this using your calculator. So you have 2 square root of 64 all over 3 minus 2 times square root of 1 all over 3, which is 16/3 minus 2/3, 14/3 po yung ating tamang sagot. And to interpret this, the area of the plane region bounded by square root of x, by y equals square root of x, this one po. And if x equals 1, this is the vertical portion of the line, no? Ito po yung portion ng x equals 1. Ito po yung x equals 4. So this, the area of this region here is 14/3 square units. Letter C. Okay, so thank you po. Yes, tama po, Sir PJ. 16/3 minus 2/3 po. Good job po. May tanong po tayo before I proceed. Okay, none. Okay, sige. Thank you po. Now, let's proceed to 110. Find the area of the region bounded by y equals 2 minus x squared and y equals negative x. Ito yung exciting part. Is it 10/3, 14/3, 11/3, or 9/2? Sabi ni Sir Kim, letter D daw. Humula si Sir PJ, letter B daw, boy. Dog kay Sir Kim, boy kay Sir PJ. How about the others po? D rin daw, sabi ni Sir Freddy. Okay. D sabi ni Sir Barry. Okay. Tignan po natin kung sino nga ba yung tama sa atin. Or, okay, sige po. Ito yung maganda sa calculus kasi may calculator. Kidding aside pa. But of course, no, even with our calculators, it's really good po, no, if we know also the concepts. A daw, hula na rin, sabi niya. Okay, tignan po natin. So ito po yung graph, no? If we would like to determine the area bounded by the curves po, it's very important, if possible, if we graph them. So I graph them na lang po, no, using GeoGebra. This is the portion of the graph of f of x equals 2 minus x squared, yung naka-red. At saka yung naka-blue po, ito po yung f of x equals negative x. You could see from here po na yung if you will draw a rectangular strip, no, it will touch your upper function will be the 2 minus x squared, and the lower function will be this f of x equals negative x. And as suggested by Sir Kim, makikita po natin sa graph nila na meron po silang points of intersection. Ito po. So that's why it is very important that if graphs have if we do not specify the limits, hindi po natin alam kung anong lower bound at saka yung upper bound ng x. It's very important to check the graph, to look for intersections, and probably we could solve, of course, we could solve algebraically yung points of intersection po nila. So we will have this f of x, this one, your upper function, minus this one, which is your lower function. So, but first, to find the interval, we equate the two functions and solve for x. We equated them because the purpose is to determine their intersection. With such, negative x equals 2 minus x squared. Expressing this one in standard form, no, and making the right-hand side equal to 0, we have x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. This negative x squared became positive x squared on the left-hand side. This positive 2 became negative 2 on the left-hand side rather. Okay lang po. Then, factoring this gives you x plus 1 times the quantity x minus 2 equals 0. By the zero property of multiplication, we will equate each factor to 0. This gives us x equals -1 or x equals 2. That's why kita po natin dito at x equals -1, nag-intersect sila. At x equals 2, nag-intersect din po sila dito. And this means that the curves intersect at x equals -1 or x equals 2. Thus, the area of interest dito po lies on the closed interval -1, 2. So your lower boundary po, ito po yung magiging, yung a po natin dito siya is -1 and yung b po natin dito will be 2. Take note that a is understood to be lower than b. Kung sino po yung mas mababa sa kanila, dapat yan po yung sa lower bound. Kung sino po yung mas mataas sa kanila, sa upper bound if possible. And that's minus the upper minus the lower function. With such, we will integrate 2 minus x squared minus -x here, dx, and our lower and upper limits are -1 and 2 respectively. Simplifying this gives us -x squared plus x plus 2 dx. Applying the power rule, or in this case, now we will integrate them term by term. You will have this one will be -x cubed over 3. The integration of x is x squared over 2. The integration of 2 is 2x. And of course, we will evaluate it at if x is 2 and if x is -1. Okay. Yan po yung isang another thing, when do we choose the vertical or the horizontal strip? If your case here, these are all in terms, you are expressing your functions in terms of x. So notice po natin, this case, you could use the vertical strip po. But if your functions usually dito siya makikita, or in terms of y naman po, dito, at saka you could use the horizontal strip. Right minus left naman po yun. Okay, so from this po, we will now substitute 2 to this expression. That's negative of 2 cubed over 3 plus x squared plus 2 squared all over 2 plus 2 times 2. I also substituted -1 to each of this. That becomes negative of -1 cubed over 3 plus -1 squared over 2 plus 2 times -1. Take note, we have to place brackets here because we have to subtract this whole thing from this. Integral po ito. Ito po ay integral calculus po, Sir Freddy. Okay. So with such po, using our calculators, you will arrive to -8/3 plus 2 plus 4 minus this whole thing here is 1/3 plus 1/2 minus 2. This simplifies to 9/2 square units. So dito po, 9/2 po ito in square units. Letter D. I hope you got it right. Okay. So don't worry po, it's it's good also if we could review when do we use horizontal or vertical strips po. Okay. So far so good. 111. Okay. My question po sa number 110. So kung feel po natin na parang yes, area under the curve po. Kung nalilito po tayo, feel free po to revisit yung ating calculus notes or yung lessons po natin in the past. Okay. 100. Yes po. Yes po. Yung solids, yung volume, yung solids of revolution po. Meron din po tayo niyan. Yung shell method, yung disk method. Saya lang. Okay. 111. Okay, so it's this time it's like Prof Ed na po tayo. Which of the following is most likely least appealing to students who learn how to add integers? Lecture, discovery, hands-on activities, inquiry method. Okay. May nagsasabing letter A. Meron ding nagsasabing letter C. Take note po ha, yung tanong is most likely least appealing. Parang hindi siguro masyadong appealing o baka hindi masyadong magugustuhan ng karamihan siguro. So, this is most like this is we will go with, I believe many of you would agree, it actually is the lecture method alone. Especially with our current generation right now, no? We are teachers, education right now, as much as possible, should be learner-centered. Discovery, hands-on activities, and inquiry method are learner-centered. Lecture method, more often than not, is usually teacher-centered. And it's good also if children will be given hands-on activities, inquiry method, discovery, because if they are active in learning, more often than not, the learning becomes, it's something they own, and learning becomes more permanent, I believe. So letter A po. Okay, so careful po tayo ha. There are some words po na baka na-miss po natin. So careful po. Wag ganon. Okay, 112. Which of the following is important when you are able to determine that students do not pay attention in class? A, scold them. B, assign them internet-related works. C, motivate them. Ask them what is wrong. So saan kaya dito yung best answer? Okay. Para sa iyo, Ma'am Judy, bakit po letter C, ma'am? Bakit motivate them? If you don't mind po, Ma'am Judy, would you like to open your microphone po?
Hello, good evening po, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
My answer is letter C, which is motivate them, because I think that is the best technique as a teacher to motivate the students.
Okay. So it's something that is more proactive, no? It's something probably if they are interested much about the lesson, probably I believe, no, as educators, we believe that motivating them, motivation is key for them to listen and for them to participate in our classes. And this would hopefully lead them to be more focused in class. So letter C po. And besides, no, it's the most positive thing to do. The best thing to do, I believe here. Letter C. Grabe ka naman, sir. Scold them. Baka deserve naman. Okay, so we have to be very careful now because right now, no, in our generation today, I think we go for positive discipline. We go for something that's positive, no. So we will stick with the best, which is to motivate them. Pero okay. Anyway, 113. Which of the following tools is great in teaching transformations of graphs in quadratic functions? GeoGebra, Desmos, neither A nor B, or D, both A and B? Okay. Are you familiar po with these two po? Are we familiar with GeoGebra and Desmos? Okay. Actually, GeoGebra and Desmos are actually free. No? They are, as long as you have internet connection, and also, no, I believe, I check lang, you could actually download them from the Play Store and work on it, use it offline if you wish. But these two are actually graphing calculators. And what is good with GeoGebra and Desmos is that you could encode their functions, and it has a lot of features or functions which are actually very useful for mathematics classes. And one of them is, of course, both are useful for the teaching of graphs or transformations. In fact, letter D, both A and B. in my classes, if there is graphing involved, I would usually use GeoGebra or Desmos. Both of them are very useful. And apart from that, you could actually explore some of their interactive activities. And especially sometimes, no, meron mga times kasi na mahirap i-teach yung isang topic. But with the help of these two, graphing, algebra, geometry becomes very, very easy. It becomes a lot easier po. So try exploring these two. 114. You found out that students like working on manipulatives. Which of the following activities will help them learn the volume of a cone? A. Research about the formula. B. Let them perform experiments with actual models. C. Let them discuss solutions with their classmates. Or letter D. Let them listen to lectures. Okay. So far, marami po yung confidence sa letter B. Okay. Manipulatives. Take note po, no? When we say manipulatives are actually parang mga models din sila, no? They are aids as well. You could actually work with them, no? You could manipulate them. You could play with them while at the same time learning something mathematical out of it. That's why from the first sentence, knowing that they like to tinker on something, to work on something, so let them perform experiments with actual models. Letter B. We choose letter C is also good, but again, from the first sentence, they like to work on manipulatives. Discussing something with them, discussing solutions to them would not necessarily involve manipulatives. Letter B is the best here. B, kasi exciting. Sana all. And I agree with Sir Freddy, no? That this one is for something kinesthetic intelligence po natin. That they have to work or they have to move for them to learn. Thank you po, Sir Freddy. Walang question mark kasi sure siya sa B. Sana all. Okay. 115. Which of the following softwares below is best for statistical analysis? Did you go for GeoGebra, quizzes, SPSS, or Microsoft application? Okay. Sana all nga excited. So marami po sa atin ang sumagot ng letter C, SPSS. Actually, what is very good is that all of these, no, GeoGebra, yung pieces siguro pwede ka makagawa ng test dyan. Yung GeoGebra, meron din siyang statistical na computation. It's also capable. The same thing with Microsoft application. However, SPSS or the statistical package for the social sciences software is actually built for this purpose. It is very powerful. It is more powerful than GeoGebra and Microsoft applications po because it has plenty of features and yung iba kasi no medyo limited pa sila pero yung SPSS kaya niya marami siyang tests na kayang gawin. Of course, tests that are allowable for your data. So we will go with letter C, SPSS. Yung SPSS po ngayon ay pag-aari ata ng IBM, if I'm not mistaken. It's IBM SPSS. Yes. So for my thesis, no, for my dissertation, I use SPSS as well because it's really beneficial. Okay, thank you. I think you are also familiar with this po, especially if you are teaching research or if you have done your statistical analysis for your thesis po. Okay, salamat. Yes, marami po sa ngayon, no? Marami po sa atin ang gumagamit ng SPSS po. Especially kung scan mo yung mga thesis na anong tawag natin dito, yung mga gumagamit ng, yung mga especially yung mga quantitative na thesis, usually gumagamit ng SPSS. Karamihan sa makikita ko. Okay, 116. You would like your students to understand the trend of sales of the school canteen. Which of the following graphs is best to use? Line graph, pie graph, frequency polygon, or pictograph? Yes. Sa research and development, yes po, SPSS talaga ginagamit. Marami po. Yun nga lang, no, although medyo may kamahalan po ng konti yung license. Okay, letter A. If you answered letter A, trend of sales, line graph is actually the best for that, letter A. Kasi yung line graph, makikita mo yung umi-increase ba o nagdi-decrease yung trend, no? Yung pie graph naman po, it's actually it's a good graph to visualize the relationship of a part to a whole or a part to another part of that same whole or of that same thing po, no? Of that same pie graph. Frequency polygon, hindi po. Pictographs are using pictures, no, to represent certain quantities. But for trend, we go for line graph, letter A. Okay. Gusto ko yan. Grabe ka naman. Sir Freddy said, pusta po bahay namin, Sir. A po. Sana all. Tama po. Letter A. Grabe naman. Huwag naman po salang umabot sa mga ganyang bagay, sir. 117. Mr. Pedros utilized the following image for his math class. What is he most likely trying to model here? What is he most likely trying to model here? X plus 3 equals 7. 3x equals 7. X divided by 3 equals 7. Or x minus 3 equals 7. Ay, wala ba kayong image po? Ay, sorry po. Sorry. Dito po, sige po, bonus po natin yan. Bonus po natin yan. Pero for the so don't worry po, no, it will be a bonus on your part. But for now po, kung makakita kayo nito, ano bang gusto nitong i-model? Letter A daw, sabi ni Sir Freddy. B, sabi ni Sir Barry, na 3x equals 7. Okay, pero marami sa inyo ang nagsasabing letter A. Okay, how about yung iba po? Letter A din po ba? Take note po ha, bonus po ito. Pero let's say, if ever na meron pong actual na ganyan, it is letter A po. Tandaan po natin, in this case, no, if we are having the concept of balance here, yung total nito, ng total ng x at saka 3, dapat ng x at saka ng tatlong circles, equal dito. And when we say total, no, we're talking about sum. That's why x plus 3 is equal to 7. The fact that they balance out, it's actually implying that they are equal, that the quantity or the weight on the left is equal to the weight on the right. So letter A po, x plus 3 equals 7. Okay. Sige po. 118. Ay, grabe siya. Grabe ka, sir, ha? Sir Freddy, nakakailang hugot ka na. 118. Based on the image, how many squares should the question mark be for students to get the correct answer? 2, 3, 4, or 6? Wala rin po sa copy ninyo. Sige po, bonus po ulit. Sorry. Sige po. So correct po kayo. Meron po dalawang items na bonus. Dito po. Ano pong sagot ninyo? If ever po. Letter D daw. 6. And you are actually correct if you say that. Why? Kung gusto po natin, let's make it complicated. It's a ratio, no? So 2 is to 1 equals question mark is to 3. So the product of the means, 1 times question mark, is equal to the product of the extremes, 2 times 3. So that's 1 times question mark is equal to 2 times 3, or your question mark should be 6. Or to make it simple, in simple terms, bawat dalawang square, isang circle. Dahil may tatlong circle, so dapat meron tig-dalawang square kada circle. So 2, 2, 2, that would be 6 in all. Letter D nga po. So but again, Bonus po sa inyo kasi wala po sa copy. 119. Which of the following concepts should be used to make students realize that mathematics is also applicable to other areas of knowledge or discipline? Contextualization, integration, differentiated instruction, or D, all of the above? Okay. Marami po sa atin. Okay, salit lang po ah. Okay, so what's the best answer here? Did you go for B or D? Okay, so actually, we could go with D, no? Let's see kung D nga ba yung best answer here. When we say contextualization, no? When we say contextualization, usually, ibinabagay natin sa context ng learners natin yung itinuturo natin. Halimbawa po, if our learners are in a rural area, or then probably our lesson may be all about the rural areas as well, or could be integrated in their lives in the rural areas. Kung sa palaisdaan, palaisdaan din. Okay? So yung integration naman, this one is very useful siya. Ini-integrate natin yung one discipline or isang area ng knowledge sa iba. Yung differentiated instruction naman is ano? Is what? Saglit lang po. Yung differentiated instruction, okay. Yung differentiated instruction, kapag sinabi naman nating differentiated instruction, iniiba natin yung activities na. There are many ways of differentiating. No? You could differentiate the process, the content. Minsan iniiba natin siya, no? Depende sa sa pacing, depende sa knowledge, depende on the type of learners that we have, no? So in that way, they could also learn from their pace, their learning styles, maraming solutions, depende po. So I believe, no? I believe that many of you will agree that the best answer here is integration. Letter B. Questions po or clarifications? Yes, Sir Freddy.
Sir, the question is, ang question ko sir is, which of the following concepts could be used to make students realize that mathematics is also applicable, underline with emphasis on the word applicable, to other areas of knowledge and discipline? So, tanong ko lang po sir, ang tanong ko kasi sir, sa contextualization, I'm picturing it out na parang you use math concepts to teach other subjects, like for contextualization purposes.
Okay.
Para maging clear sa students that math is also applicable on other disciplines.
Dito po kasi sir, no, for example, for the integration part po, no, pwede mo siyang it's like yung integration po kasi parang siya. Sige, saglit lang po
Gusto integration sir. Agree, nag-agree na.
Okay. So when we speak about integration po kasi, no, an integrated curriculum is described as one that connects different areas of study by cutting across subject matter lines and emphasizing unifying concepts. So integration focuses on making connections for students, allowing them to engage in relevant, meaningful activities that can be connected to real life. So I believe that integration is the best answer here po. So we will go with letter B. Okay na po? So we could search more of that, no? And we have one more. So letter B po tayo for 190. 120. You found out that the distribution of scores in addition of fractions is negatively skewed. What is the best thing to do? Proceed to the next lesson, provide remediation, reteach the topic, or D, all of the above? So ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin kapag sinabi nating negatively skewed yung scores? In statistics, what does a negatively skewed distribution tell us? It's near the mean. When we say negatively skewed po, to make it simple, no? Negatively skewed distribution indicates that most scores are high. The lowest measure of central tendency is the mode. The lowest measure of central tendency is the mean, followed by the higher to it, it's median, and the highest is the mode. That's why this actually tells us that many of our learners have high scores, and most likely high scores would indicate that learning occurred. Then the best thing is proceed to the next lesson, letter A. Okay. All right. So, saglit lang po. Okay, so far, many of you got satisfactory or high scores. And it's okay po. Sir Jason, no worries po. Okay, so it's okay. So at least what's more important is that we had a great learning experience tonight. Okay, so I'll pause the recording. And hopefully you learned something for tonight's discussion. And thank you. If there are no questions, so thank you very much and a great night to one and all.